Pontius Pilate, the man forever remembered as the Roman governor who condemned Jesus to death. His name is recited in creeds, carved in history, and cursed in sermons. But what if I told you Pilate actually did not want to kill Jesus? In fact, the Gospels show us a man desperately trying to avoid it, pushed into a corner by Jewish religious leaders who would accept nothing less than crucifixion. The factual and historical Pilate is likely not who you think he is. When Jesus is first brought to Pilate, the Roman governor is confused. He asks, "What charges are you bringing against this man?" The Jews gave a vague answer. "If he were not a criminal, we wouldn't have handed him over." John 18:29-30. But do you notice, no actual crime is given? Pilate immediately senses this isn't a political case, it's religious, and Rome couldn't care less about religious squabbles, especially amongst the Jews, which they usually looked down upon for their religious beliefs. Pilate doesn't want any part of this. His very first move? He tells them flat out, "Judge him yourselves by your own law." He's trying to push the case back to the Jewish authorities like a hot potato he doesn't want to hold. Then what makes things even worse is Pilate actually declares Jesus to be innocent multiple times. In John 18:38, after questioning Jesus, Pilate says the line, "I find no basis for a charge against him." That's the first declaration of innocence, but not the last. Pilate repeats this verdict 3 separate times: Luke 23:4, John 19:4, John 19:6. A Roman governor declaring a man innocent 3 times, yet still executing him? That's suspicious. Pilate reminds the Jewish mob of a settlement, that he'll release one prisoner for the Passover holiday. He thinks surely they'll pick Jesus over Barabbas to be released, a proven violent rebel and murderer. John 18:39-40. But the people scream for Barabbas anyways. Pilate's strategy backfires. This was supposed to be Pilate's escape hatch. Instead, it was checkmate. The crowd chose blood over innocence. Pilate orders Jesus flogged and mocked by soldiers, crowned with thorns, purple robe, then paraded before the people. John 19:1-5. Why? Many historians believe Pilate hoped the horrific sight of a bloodied, humiliated Jesus would satisfy the crowd's thirst for punishment without crucifixion. He literally tells them, "Behold the man," as if to say, "Look, he's broken. Isn't this enough?" This was Pilate trying to de-escalate, to offer a brutal compromise, humiliate him, beat him, but let him live. But again, the leaders refused. The turning point is John 19:12. "If you let this man go, you are no friend of Caesar. Anyone who claims to be a king opposes Caesar." That's not just religious talk. That's a political threat. In Rome, being accused of not defending Caesar's authority could cost Pilate his job or his life. Now it's clear, Pilate isn't judging Jesus anymore. He's being judged. If he releases Jesus, the Jewish leaders will report him as disloyal. That was the nail in the coffin. Not for Jesus, but for Pilate's will. In Matthew 27:24, Pilate literally washes his hands in front of the people. "I am innocent of this man's blood." Symbolically, Pilate is saying, "This isn't my choice, this is yours." Even his wife warned him in a dream, "Have nothing to do with that righteous man." Matthew 27:19. It's almost tragic. Pilate tries to distance himself from responsibility, but history still nails his name to the crucifixion forever. Here's what most people don't realize. Pilate was already on thin ice with Rome. Historical records, Philo, Josephus, show Pilate had previously clashed with Jews over religious offenses and was reported to Caesar multiple times. By the time of Jesus' trial, Pilate couldn't afford another scandal. One more complaint to Tiberius, and Pilate's governorship was toast. This explains why Pilate caved. It wasn't because he thought Jesus was guilty, it was because he valued his own survival more than the truth. Pilate didn't want this. Over and over, he tried to push Jesus back to the Jewish courts, to declare him innocent, to release him. He offered Barabbas. He offered scourging. He even washed his hands in public. Anything to avoid the blood of an innocent man. But none of it mattered. The Jewish mob and their followers shouted louder, schemed harder, and forced Pilate into a corner. They weaponized Caesar's name against him and demanded crucifixion, no matter what. So when history remembers the death of Jesus, it's important to be clear. Pilate wasn't the one who desired it. He was the weak instrument. The real driving force was the pressure of the Jewish mob, the high priests, the Sanhedrin, and the groups of followers they stirred up who would not rest until Jesus was hanging on that cross. In the end, it was their hatred, their envy, and their relentless demands that put Jesus to death. Pilate gave in, but the push, the obsession, the will for Jesus to die did not come from Pilate.